Some books just sit on your shelf. They're polite. And then there are books like Virginia Woolf's 1928 masterpiece, Orlando. This book does not sit still. No way. It leaps across entire centuries, it laughs right in the face of facts, and it tells one of the most strange, gorgeous, and absolutely revolutionary stories you'll ever read. I mean, this quote just nails it, right? It perfectly captures what this book feels like. It's this beautiful act of creation, but at the exact same time, it's this radical act of destruction. It's about tearing down everything we thought we knew about what a life story is supposed to be. So this is the central puzzle Woolf just drops in our laps. How is this possible? This question is the engine of the entire novel, and it's the very thing we're going to unpack today. It really challenges our most fundamental ideas about who we are, about time, and about identity itself. So, to figure this out, we're going to start with the novel's fiery approach to biography. Then, we'll dive into what Woolf calls the mind's timeless river of consciousness. After that, we'll see how she completely reinvents biography to go way beyond just facts and look at her groundbreaking vision of gender as a kind of performance. And finally, we'll wrap up with why all of this is still so incredibly important today. All right, first up, let's talk about the engine of this novel. It's all about Woolf's really unique way of showing us what's happening inside Orlando's head, not just for a day, but across centuries. Woolf was a master of a technique called stream of consciousness. Now, just think about your own mind for a second. It doesn't move in neat, orderly paragraphs, does it? Of course not. You're thinking about what to have for lunch, and then suddenly a childhood memory pops up, and then you're worrying about something tomorrow. Woolf basically writes that chaos directly onto the page. And in doing so, she captures the true messy feeling of what it's like to be alive inside a human mind. And just look at the sheer scale of the world changing around Orlando. We're talking about massive historical shifts. The world literally transforms from the age of Shakespeare all the way to the age of the motor car. Everything on the outside is in constant flux. But, and this is the magic trick of the whole book, while the world, the different eras, and even Orlando's physical body change in these huge, dramatic ways, their inner consciousness, that river of thought we talked about, it stays recognizably the same. The voice inside their head is consistent. And Woolf makes this crystal clear. Orlando actually reflects on it themselves. The gloomy Elizabethan boy, the passionate ambassador, the witty Victorian lady, they're all just phases, costumes. Underneath it all, that essential self, that stream of consciousness, it just keeps flowing on, completely unchanged. So this idea of an inner self being separate from all the external facts, well, that leads us right into our next point. See, Woolf wasn't just trying to write a revolutionary novel. She was basically attacking the entire idea of what a biography was. She wanted to tell a life story that was about so much more than a list of dates and achievements. Back in Woolf's time, biographies were, well, they were these dull, heavy tombstones. Just these massive books obsessed with facts and public records. Woolf championed what she called a new biography, one that was more like a painter's portrait. It wasn't about facts. It was about trying to capture the spirit, the personality, the messy, beautiful inner life of a real person. And she does this with such a playful, almost cheeky sense of humor. The book has this ridiculous preface. The narrator constantly butts in to admit they don't really know what's going on. And my favorite part, she even includes actual photos of her lover, Vita Sackville-West, and just pretends they're historical portraits of Orlando. She's winking at us the whole time, completely blurring that line between fact and fiction. And here's the crucial paradox. By totally abandoning the pretense of being factually accurate, by admitting that you can never truly know another person, Woolf's biography ends up feeling more emotionally true, more real than any list of dates and deeds ever could. Okay, this brings us to the book's most radical, and probably its most famous idea. Woolf's vision of gender not as some fixed biological fact, but as a kind of social costume we're all asked to wear. This is the pivot on which the entire novel turns. Orlando goes to sleep one night and wakes up the next morning as a woman. And the narrator is so clear about this. Okay, their body has changed, yes, but their self, their identity, their memories, who they are, that's all exactly the same. So what does change? Well, it's how the world reacts to them. As a man in Elizabethan England, Orlando is powerful. He's free to be adventurous. Society basically expects and encourages him to go out and act in the world. But the moment Orlando is seen as a woman, especially when we get to the Victorian era, society's cage just slams shut. All of a sudden, she's expected to be delicate, to be modest, to be an ornament. Her inner self hasn't changed one bit, but the roles available to her have shrunk almost to nothing. And right here, Woolf just lays it all out on the table. She's arguing that every single one of us is a mix of masculine and feminine qualities. It's only the clothes, and by clothes, she means the social roles, the expectations, the performances we adopt, that force us into one box or the other. For Woolf, gender isn't what you are, it's what you do. It's a performance. So why on earth are we still talking so much about a book that was written nearly a century ago? Well, it's because the conversations that Virginia Woolf started in 1928 are the exact same conversations we are having right now, today. Seriously, think about it. The idea of gender performativity, that's a central concept in modern queer theory, and Woolf was writing about it back in 1928. That whole literary trend of autofiction where writers blend their own lives with their novels, that's Orlando to a T. Her work wasn't just ahead of its time, it was unbelievably prophetic. Ultimately, I think this is why the book has lasted. At its heart, it's a story for anyone who has ever felt that the boxes society tries to build for us, man, woman, proper, improper, are just way too small to contain who we really are. It's a total celebration of human complexity. And that's the real magic of Orlando. Woolf isn't interested in giving us easy answers. Instead, she just shatters the very categories of the questions we ask about identity. And in that beautiful, fiery destruction, she offers us a vision of what radical freedom could really look like. And so we're left with this question. It's the one Woolf leaves hanging in the air at the very end of the novel, and it feels more relevant and more urgent now than maybe ever before. If we aren't defined by all those external things, then what is that continuous, timeless river that flows through each and every one of us?